The ceremony was supposed to be a celebration, a father's proudest moment. But when two guards confronted a black Marine and told him to leave, the crowd froze in disbelief. A hero dismissed like he didn't belong. He stood there, torn between anger and heartbreak, wondering how his son would remember this day. Yet, in the corner of the room, 6 men watched silently. When they finally stood, the story of that graduation changed forever. For most parents, graduation day is a simple joy, a milestone marked by applause, photographs, and pride. For Sergeant Marcus Reed, it was more than that. After years of deployment, of missed birthdays and long nights wondering if he'd make it home alive, this day felt like a promise kept. His son, Jordan, had pushed through sleepless nights and endless exams to reach this moment. And Marcus, a Marine who had stood on foreign battlefields, was finally here to stand for his boy. He arrived early, uniform pressed, medals gleaming faintly under the soft auditorium lights. Families filled the rows, their chatter a steady hum of excitement. Marcus sat quietly, eyes fixed on the stage where his son would soon walk. Every heartbeat carried both pride and relief. He had made it home for this. Nothing, he thought, could spoil it. But even before the ceremony began, Marcus noticed the looks. Some subtle, others not. A father shifted uncomfortably when Marcus sat nearby. A woman whispered to her friend, their eyes darting toward him. He was used to it, the unspoken weight of being a black man in spaces where respect wasn't always given freely. But today, of all days, he told himself he would ignore it. Still, something in the room felt off. 2 guards lingered near the side doors, scanning the crowd more often than the program in their hands. Marcus caught their gaze once, and the exchange was quick but sharp, like a question unspoken, a decision waiting to be made. He turned away, focusing again on the stage. Jordan would be crossing that platform any minute, and nothing else mattered. But beneath the music and the chatter, a quiet tension built, almost invisible. Marcus adjusted his posture, his uniform creasing at the shoulders. He reminded himself, "You've faced worse." But the truth gnawed at him. Battlefields had rules, a code of honor. Here, in this room meant for celebration, there were no guarantees. And as the lights dimmed and the announcer's voice rang out, Marcus didn't see the 2 guards step forward, their eyes fixed only on him. The graduation hall buzzed with nervous energy as rows of students lined up backstage. Proud families leaned forward, phones ready to capture the moment. Marcus straightened in his seat, his chest swelling when he saw Jordan appear in the procession. Cap and gown pressed sharp, tassel swaying with each step. For a brief instant, Marcus forgot the tension, forgot the stares. His son was about to cross a threshold he himself had never been offered. But the moment didn't last. Movement caught his eye. The 2 guards had left their post and were advancing down the side aisle, their boots soft but deliberate on the carpet. Marcus felt it before it happened, the unmistakable focus of being singled out. He had felt it overseas when enemy eyes tracked him from rooftops. Here it was different, yet just as suffocating. They stopped near his row. The families beside him shifted, unsure, pretending not to notice. Marcus stared straight ahead, but his pulse quickened. He had been in enough battles to recognize when a confrontation was coming. And then it began. A hand motion, a whispered instruction. Families craned their necks as the guards leaned toward him. The humiliation washed over Marcus like a wave he couldn't stop. He wasn't disruptive. He wasn't out of place. He was a father waiting for his son. Yet the message was clear, he didn't belong. The first microhook of injustice struck hard. But it wasn't the last. Marcus rose slowly, the medals on his chest catching the dim stage light. He stood taller than most men in the room, his presence commanding, but still the air thickened with quiet judgment. He had worn this uniform to serve, to protect, to honor. And now, the very cloth that symbolized sacrifice seemed invisible to the eyes fixed on him. The announcer's voice boomed, calling the next line of graduates. Jordan's row shifted forward. Marcus's throat tightened. Would his son look out and see his seat empty? The guards gestured again, firmer this time. The crowd's whispers grew louder, like a low tide swelling against stone. Marcus thought of every moment that had led here. Long nights under desert skies, the weight of a rifle on his shoulder, the flag folded into a triangle and handed to grieving mothers. He had stood tall through all of it. But here, in this polished hall, surrounded by polished shoes and polite applause, he was being erased. And then another shift in the room. From the corner of his eye, Marcus noticed them. 6 men sitting quietly a few rows away, their posture unmistakable. Shoulders squared, back straight, eyes sharp. They hadn't moved, not yet, but there was something about them. A storm waiting for the right moment. The tension tightened like a wire. Marcus's heart thudded against his ribs. He knew his options. Comply, walk away, disappear quietly so his son could finish this day without shame, or resist, stand his ground, and risk turning his boy's graduation into a scene remembered for the wrong reasons. The crowd shifted again. Phones lifted discreetly, recording. The spectacle had begun. Marcus's name wouldn't be on the program, but his presence was becoming the headline. A family nearby scooted further down their row, as though distance could erase the discomfort of sitting beside him. Marcus kept his gaze on the stage, but the sting burrowed deeper. He had fought enemies who wore their hatred openly. Here, it came wrapped in ceremony, hidden behind polite authority. The announcer's voice echoed again. Jordan's name was growing closer on the list. Marcus clenched his fists, unseen at his sides. Would his son walk across the stage searching for him, only to find an empty seat? And then, as the guards leaned closer, a new current shifted in the hall. Chairs scraped quietly. The 6 men rose, not in a rush, not in anger, but in perfect, deliberate unison. The audience stilled, confusion flickering through the crowd. Marcus didn't turn, but he felt it. The undeniable presence of warriors stepping forward. His training recognized theirs. He knew before anyone else what they were. Navy SEALs. The guards faltered, their confidence shaken for the first time. The crowd's whispers stopped altogether. Silence fell heavy across the hall, the kind that precedes impact. Marcus stood frozen, his heart torn between dread and relief. Something was about to happen, something that would mark this day forever. The hall froze. What had been a celebration seconds earlier now felt like a battlefield. Silent, tense, waiting for someone to make the first move. The guards hovered over Marcus, their authority unshaken. But their eyes flicked nervously toward the 6 men now standing across the aisle. The SEALs didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their presence was louder than any command. The way they stood, unflinching, coordinated, steady, told the crowd everything. This wasn't an ordinary confrontation. Marcus felt the weight of 100 eyes pressing down on him. He could hear his own heartbeat louder than the music that had stopped mid-note. He had been trained to recognize allies, to sense backup in the darkest moments. And now he knew he wasn't alone. But still, the question clawed at him. What happens next? One guard shifted his stance, squaring his shoulders, as if to reassert control. The other touched his radio, fingers twitching, a signal of uncertainty. Families held their breath, phones rose higher. Every second stretched long, like the pause before a storm breaks. Marcus's throat tightened. He thought of Jordan, just rows away, waiting to hear his name called. Would his son remember this day as triumph or disgrace? Would he remember a father humiliated or a father who stood tall? The SEALs moved. Not a march, not a charge, just a single, deliberate step forward. 6 boots hitting the floor in unison. The sound cracked through the silence like thunder rolling across an empty field. The crowd reacted instantly. Gasps, whispers, a ripple of fear, but also awe. No one dared to interrupt. Marcus kept his gaze forward, but his spine stiffened with each step they took. He felt the echo of their support ripple through him, steadying the weight that had pressed on his chest since the guards arrived. The guards froze mid-motion, caught between protocol and pressure. Authority demanded they finish what they started. Instinct told them otherwise. They weren't just looking at a Marine anymore. They were facing 6 of the most disciplined warriors alive. And still, no words. The silence stretched, Heavy, unbearable. Marcus's breath slowed, each inhale dragging against his ribs. He realized, in that moment, that the choice wasn't his anymore. The next move belonged to the room. Would the guards push forward, forcing humiliation in front of hundreds? Or would the silent stand of 6 men be enough to tip the balance, to remind everyone what honor looked like? The announcer's voice cracked through the tension, calling the next graduate. Jordan's row shifted forward. His name was moments away. Marcus's chest heaved. This was it, the instant that would decide not only the memory of this day, but the story told about it for years to come. The hall remained suspended in silence, every breath held, every eye fixed on the standoff. And then, as if fate itself demanded it, the announcer's voice rang clear, "Jordan Reed." The sound broke through the tension like glass shattering. Marcus's son stepped forward, walking across the stage with steady steps, but his eyes were searching for the seat where his father should have been. And Marcus was still there, unmoved, unbroken. The guards hesitated, their authority crumbling under the weight of the moment. The 6 seals didn't advance further. They didn't have to. Their silent presence was enough. A single choice hung heavy in the air: escalate or step back. The guards lowered their hands. Without a word, they retreated to the side of the hall. A ripple moved through the crowd, part disbelief, part relief. Some clapped softly, unsure if they were celebrating Jordan's walk across the stage or the quiet victory they had just witnessed. But for Marcus, it was clear. He had not been erased. Jordan turned his head just enough to see him. Still standing, still strong, medals catching the stage light. Father and son's eyes met across the hall, and in that instant, the humiliation dissolved into pride. This moment would not be remembered for shame, but for resilience. Yet even as relief washed over him, Marcus knew the scars would remain. He had worn a uniform that should have meant respect, yet it hadn't shielded him from suspicion. He had defended freedom abroad, yet had to fight for dignity at home. The wound was deeper than this one day. It was part of a story written across generations. Still, something had shifted. 6 men had stood silently and reminded the room of what honor truly looked like. Their act would not erase the injustice, but it would echo. In the whispers of the crowd, in the recordings on phones, in the memory of every witness, it would remain. Marcus sat back down slowly, his son's diploma clutched in his hands minutes later. The pride was real. The pain was real. Both would travel with him. And as the applause faded, one question lingered in the silence that followed. How many more fathers will have to fight to simply stand by their children before the world finally learns to see them?